The concept of an arcade game is obscure. The games look fun to play, so when you walk into the arcade and towards the rhythm game section to give them a try, you quickly realize there's a lot of people here. Who would have thought that the barrier of entry to play a video game was social interaction? The tutorials I watched online didn't tell me about this. What do I do now? These issues will cross anyone new to the arcades, but throughout my 2 years of playing, I was able to learn some important life skills to keep my video game addiction afloat, which is maimai, but this probably occurs within other arcade rhythm games. Well, firstly, if you want to play, just walk up to the machine when it's your turn. It's as easy as that, no need to socialize. Although, it makes sense for socializing to happen between a group of people with a shared interest. But here are the two scenarios that usually occur when you come to the arcade by yourself. Either you show up and everyone waiting in queue are all on their phones, quietly texting on Discord or playing another rhythm game. You're pretty much gonna do the same thing as them. The other scenario is the opposite. It's where everyone is loud and having a lot of fun, but these people are already in an established friend group, so it's not like you can join the fun, but more like they don't want you in the fun. You're that unlucky odd number in that situation, because when it's your turn, no one wants to play with you. Why would they if they can play with their friends instead of some stranger? That's what we call solo queuing. It's usually reserved if you're actually by yourself, but I've seen people request it if they want to grind a specific song or if they're antisocial. It's pretty much exclusive in China and Japan, since they have a lot of arcades as well as the culture there being more serious. So if you're in those countries, then don't bother, no one wants to talk. Here in Australia and probably in other countries as well, we don't have a lot of arcade cabs. So when you're playing maimai, for example, you're pretty much forced to play with someone else in the queue. Now, you're in this awkward situation where you're with a stranger and it looks like they don't want to talk. They got their earphones pushed deep into their ears, as well as only making eye contact with the machine, not even acknowledging your existence. It's fine if people don't want to talk, it's their choice. Sometimes I'm like this if I don't feel like talking. Although at the same time, the other person's probably more than happy to talk, but they're probably thinking the same thing. So it creates a silent tension and it's up for one of you to break the ice. You can start with the basics and look at the person you're playing with. Maybe even take off those earphones so you look like you're open to talk to. What do I say to them? You're playing the same song, so there's surely something in the game you can talk about. I'm gonna throw out some ideas for icebreakers. You can talk about the chart after you played. You could give compliments to the other player. Like if you see them pop off, you can be like, wow, nice score. Or even compliment their scores when browsing the song select. If you end up solo queuing and there's someone else sitting in queue, you can ask them if they want to play with you, or even ask the person solo queuing if you can play with them. Most of the time, they'll probably say no, but it's flattering when someone asks. It especially works with newer players because it feels like for them to step into different territory. This is a new game with its own culture and etiquette, and they're constantly being surrounded by players better than them. It feels intimidating being in this new environment. This is where you come in to be their guardian angel, teaching them about the game and being encouraging towards them. They're going to feel more comfortable because they realize that people at the arcade aren't just serious all the time, and now you made your first arcade friend. Let's go. Although they just left the arcade and you've got to ask them for their Discord, I guess you can keep going to the same arcade over and over again to encounter them. It's not a bad idea to do this because you'll start to familiarize yourself with the regular players and they'll do the same thing for you. Maybe by the 10th time you see them, they'll have the courage to greet you. Those are some of my ideas for icebreakers. There's probably better ideas, but there's no harm in trying. It may make the other person more comfortable talking to you since it shows that you're not an NPC. Although you have to be aware that it's not going to work all the time. I say like half the time people will ignore you or just have a one-word response. You gotta accept that they aren't interested, but don't let that discourage you from trying to speak to others. Friendships happen naturally. You just have to go with the flow when you meet and start talking to them, gradually going from strangers to acquaintances to eventually building a friendship together. That's it. There's nothing more than friendship. Like, that's the furthest you're gonna get from someone. Just stop there. Please, please, please. You can't find love in the arcade, guys. Stop. So my friend spotted me talking and playing maimai with another girl, which then leaked to my Discord server. And considering my server is filled of Osu players, they had to ask how I even talk to girls in the first place. I guess this interaction makes me qualified to discuss this topic. Well, maybe you should rethink your hobby if you're only playing just to pick up girls. Although it's normal to meet a partner through a shared hobby, especially when it gives you social opportunities, but good luck doing that, because when you see a girl, she'll probably be playing with another guy. I mean, nothing special about that, they're just playing. But the song ends and like 90% of the time, they're gonna start making out. Don't bother, all the girls are taken by the sweaty pro players. But I understand if you're high on hopium. So the next question is, have you met the average arcade player? Arcade games are addicting to the point that it's rotting our brains. We can only think about things related towards it. Oh, you have other hobbies outside the arcade? I don't care. You don't fit my ideal partner of a super serious player that can FC anything and who only talks about rhythm games and anime and J-pop. Maybe that was a bit of an exaggeration, but the point is that the arcade probably doesn't bring in the most attractive people. Spending hundreds of dollars on a funny music game isn't really a desirable trait, and it might attract some interesting characters. But you're also a degenerate that spends hundreds of dollars on the same funny music game. I guess it works out. Dating in the arcade isn't that different from dating in general. Maybe being able to full combo only difficulties in Taiko makes you seem more attractive towards others. But in reality, you just talk to them. Imagine breaking up though. Like, you're at the arcade to play, but then you see your ex in the queue. Ugh. Well, time to kill myself. Is that a risk you're willing to take? Like, your hobby of playing in the arcade gets ruined because you have to see them every time you come in. The pain of the breakup starts to hit because there's still some emotional attachment, and now your mood is ruined. It's a breakup, of course it's gonna be bad. If this happens to you, then my genuine advice is that this is a good excuse to take a break from the game. Give each other some space so you can reflect and have time to heal. Then it won't hurt as much when you go back to the arcade. You could maybe quit the game and find a new hobby to avoid the situation completely. Huh? Oh, okay, that's not gonna happen. Well, quitting the game is the best ending for your wallet. Like, clearly the game is too addicting for that to be possible. So we just need to learn how to minimize the damages. Being in Australia is pretty rough because arcade credit is more expensive here. A maimai game would cost $3.20, while compared to Japan, where it's 100 yen, or in the Philippines, where it's 40 pesos. There's websites you can use to check your scores depending on the arcade game. Another useful website is Indeed.com. It's a website where you can find a job because it's probably not a good idea to burn your mummy's allowance money or government payments at the arcade, but at least McDonald's is hiring. Even with a job, it's difficult to have some money left over for the arcade, so you gotta be smart when spending. We have an event in our time zone arcades called Double Dollars. Put $100 on your card and get $200 worth of credit. It's basically a money hack. There's also factors outside the arcade, like how to get there. If you drive a car, then you have to pay for petrol and then parking. That's gonna drill a hole in your wallet. So we can minimize this by taking public transport, much cheaper than a car. Although it's longer and you have to deal with other people, it's better than dealing with the fucked up petrol economy. But we can go even further. Just walk to the nearest arcade for free and you get a free cardio workout. Maybe don't do this if you live in Western Sydney though. Additionally, if you're doing a long gaming session at the arcade, you're gonna get hungry, so now you have to worry about getting food. If you want to get something proper, then you have to spend the equivalent of 6 arcade credits. Unoptimal. Go cheaper. Fast food, because you just need something that can give you enough energy, even though it tastes mid. Maybe 3 arcade credits? Still not good enough. What I like to do is go to the grocery store and buy some fruit or a small meal. It's really cheap, like 1 to 2 arcade credits. But the best way is to pack your own lunch and eat at the arcade, or eat a lot beforehand so you didn't get hungry later. Or maybe you don't be in the arcade to the point where you get hungry, you fucking addict. There's also other important finances you have to worry about. Rent, food, Miku merch, etc. You can use a money tracking app. It's a nice visualization of your spending habits, and it's easy to figure out how you can fix certain areas. You can follow budgeting rules, like there's the 50-30-20 rule. If you still living at home, then your savings can be even greater since you don't have to worry about rent, which means you can save up to buy your own arcade machine at home. No need to worry about socializing. Although it's important to understand that playing at the arcade is a want, not a need. So make sure you pay your rent, kids. Also, keep your belongings close, like under your feet or next to the machine. Makes it hard to steal. Along with your gloves and headphones, bring some deodorant because it's easy to smell bad quickly. Additionally, a spare shirt works, but wear darker colors like black or even certain materials like cotton or linen, since they're the best to hide sweat marks. Do not wear grey though. Also, extra things like a towel, water bottle, or battery bank are useful to bring along. Well, that's all my advice for this video. Hope you feel comfortable when you go to the arcade. And by arcade, I really just mean maimai. Please play maimai. This game is way too addicting, please help me. There's a reason why this video took so long to make. I just really like maimai, guys.